Hey, YouTube! What is going on? It is the one and only Black Avenger, Lee Sanders here, man. You are checking out an all new Impact Showdown coming at you all for this Thursday night of April 13th, 2017. I want to take this time, thank those of you that's checking this out, whether it's live right now or you're going to be checking it out on demand and or on the downloads. Always, I appreciate you guys that take the time out to check out Impact Showdown every single week. I got to tell you guys, I really have been enjoying bringing this particular series back for you all on a weekly basis as the action with regards to Impact Wrestling, it continues to be well-rounded, decent for the most part. I think we all could be in agreement. That's been checking it out for the past couple of weeks. As always, I'd love to hear from you all, so feel free to interact with me a couple of ways. If you're checking this out via YouTube, you can post your comments down below in the comment section. If you're maybe checking this out on demand or on the downloads, be sure to get at me on Twitter, Facebook at the RCWR Show. You can also give me a follow on those platforms as well. And hey, man, throw up those thumbs. I can't stress it enough. Make sure you give me those thumbs up, share, retweet, favorite. Honestly, it's one of the many ways you can spread a good word about the content. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe, man. So this week's Impact Wrestling, we got a little bit of an introduction, if you will, to some new characters. A lot of cliffhangers that we had saw from last week's episode. And I got to tell you, one of the things that has always been a pet peeve of mine with regards to the Impact Wrestling promotion that I will give them a lot of credit for. In previous years, I was always very critical of Impact Wrestling not really planting the necessary seeds to make you want to come check out the very next week's episode. As far as, okay, here's the subject that's going to be tackled on this week's episode. And then you have like all of these, as I basically broke it down, these great little sub chapters that happen in between of that basic main storyline. So you're seeing how all of those sub chapters intertwine with the main chapter, the main arc, and it ventures off into so many different directions. And it's like when you're checking out that episode, okay, that's addressed, but now I'm kind of wondering what they're going to do with this. And I got to tell you, within the past, honestly, I would say maybe in the past 2 years, I really want to home in on, but they've really been keeping the consistency going since this new partnership with Anthem and all that. I got to tell you, I really have been enjoying what Impact has been doing, and they just keep dangling that carrot, trying to give you some type of incentive as far as why you should come back and check out the next week's episode. So they definitely get my respect from that regard. A lot of action had went down on tonight's episode. Of course, the main event match of the night, Josh Matthews team, Josh taking on Team JB. I gotta talk about this one, but first, I'll work my way to that. We pretty much, those of you that's checking out the title of this, maybe via YouTube or whatever, you pretty much already know what went down, but I gotta kind of like really feed it all to you guys. So look, I like how the episode had began. We pretty much saw some great in-ring action as Laredo Kid, Garza Jr., they teamed up to take on the team of Reno Scum and Decays. I'm led to believe that this was for a number one contenders match to try to figure out who's going to basically go on to face LAX for those tag titles. I believe just briefly the commentators had touched upon that, but they really didn't spam the heck out of it to remind you like why this tag match is very significant, like why you should give a damn. I got to tell you, Reno Scum is really coming into their own. I was kind of scratching my head a little bit the first couple of weeks that I had saw them, but honestly, they're really starting to grow on me. I'm really starting to like the guys. If anything, if I could find just maybe one little small little hiccup that I wish could be improved in the coming weeks, I want to know a little bit more about Reno Scum. So I'd like to see some type of backstage interview segments or whatever. Doesn't have to be in the middle of the ring. I think honestly, let it be pre-taped, let it be something backstage, let it be pre-recorded. That way they can really be comfortable and all that. But I like to see some of these personalities shine a little bit more to really compliment what it is I'm seeing of these guys in the ring, but really starting to take a strong liking to Reno Scum, as well as Laredo Kid and Garza Jr. They're definitely growing on me as well. Now, we had saw the team, if I'm not mistaken, we had so actually, you know what? I didn't even write down who won that match. I'm looking at my notes here. All the matches I pretty much was watching, and I covered who all had won that. So in that instance, when that goes down, we got to go to some other notes. Yeah, Reno Scum, they actually had won that match via pinfall. So they are your, I'm assuming, your new number one contenders. Great tag matchup, great opener, just pretty much straight up in your face action for those of you that may be a little bit curious about what was going on with the Karen Jarrett character, especially considering what I had said the past couple of weeks. And look, let me just go on record because some people kind of felt that maybe I was being a little bit critical of the respected attire that Karen Jarrett had wore a couple of weeks back when we had saw her. Look, I love me a nice, fine, good looking woman. I love me a nice, fine, good looking woman, but at the same time, man, it's like, come on, us guys, let's be honest. Come on. How many of us have been in a position where we're at work and one of the supervisors or managers that we answer to is a female? And although they may have a decent looking shape going on, they aren't wearing like a F me type of outfit. You know, they're pretty conservative and all that, right? So you could try to basically use your Superman X-ray vision all you want. It's not happening, right? So I think from that regard, basically what I was saying of the Karen Jarrett character, yeah, it's very attractive. Very attractive. That's as far as I can go because at the end of the day, she is a married woman. She does have kids. I'm keeping it classy. I rather you all, man, some of the comments I saw from you all were just like, boy, I tell you, if Jeff Jarrett had read some of the things that you had said, I don't know if he'd be like, yeah, and she's all mine, or if he'd be ready to kick some of you all's behind. But it is what it is. But no, I really was just concerned about how this Karen Jarrett character was being executed to us this go round. And if you had missed my grievances or my constructive criticism about that, picking you on back, check out the previous weeks of episodes when you all get a chance. Last two episodes, it pretty much, I put the book in on all of that talk. But I do love the fact that for this week's episode, honestly, we really did not see Karen Jarrett. And when I say we really did not see Karen Jarrett, there was actually probably like a 90-second spot where we did see her. And she basically was doing her own video about what she's doing to try to make Impact great again, or what's making Impact great again. And basically, she was saying, hey, the Jarrett family, they're back in control now of Impact. Everything has now come full circle for us. Everybody remembers how it was when the Jarrett family was here the first go round. This company has been synonymous with the Jarrett name. And now that the Jarretts are back again, you can expect a lot of great things to happen for the product going forward in the weeks to come, months to come. Just keep watching. That pretty much was Karen Jarrett's message in a nutshell. Other than that little spot, we didn't see Karen Jarrett for the rest of the night. And honestly, I was fine with that. If we can honestly just keep going on with the small spoonfuls of that, that's awesome. I'm fine with that. And to my man Ben in the chat via YouTube right now, sadly, we're not talking about the future of WWE right now. If you want to hear the talk exclusively of WWE, we actually got another show for that. And I'll actually plug that right before I get done with the stream for tonight. But tonight, we're exclusively talking Impact Wrestling because this is Impact Showdown. And I'm your host, Lee Sanders. Pleased to meet you. Nice to know me. So, one thing that was pretty interesting about the matchup that we had got for the opener, we pretty much had saw Josh Matthews, Jeremy Borash continuing to trade shots with one another. And we're used to this rhetoric by now. And for the most part, I'm kind of like tuning these guys out. But they said something that was very interesting that made me kind of raise an eyebrow. One of the things came from Josh Matthews, who was so confident that his team, as he was now referring to them as GOAT, we're going to defeat JB's team. He was so confident that he put something out there on the line. He said, look, if my team does not get it done, this is how confident I am. JB, if my team doesn't get it done, I will gladly quit. You will never see me again. So you hear that and you're going, well, that's pretty ballsy, Josh Matthews. That's damn ballsy. You've got some confidence on you, my friend. Wow. You had a nice big bowl of Wheaties today, my friend, and then some. That's mighty freaking confident. So you're hearing that, and Jeremy Borash, he's going, wow, okay, well, if you're going to go that route, all right, that sounds pretty good. I'm hearing that, and I'm just kind of going from a storyline standpoint. Okay, if somebody is that confident and they're jumping out there like that, if I'm one of the writers, I'm kind of going, okay, so that's a nice little stipulation, but like, what happens if JB wins, right? What happens? Well, we know what happens if JB wins, but what happens if JB's team loses is really what I was trying to say. And the fact that that angle was not covered, it was kind of like it was almost one-sided. The fact that they did not like even try to cover that little area up, they just left that hanging. I mean, it was just out there in the wind. You could see it, you can feel it. It was in midair. They just did not try to blanket that whatsoever. That was like a dead giveaway that Josh Matthews' team is probably gonna be losing tonight because honestly, what should have went down as soon as JB said, "Yeah, that sounds pretty awesome to me. All right, you're that confident you're gonna go out there like that. Okay, cool." And then Josh Matthews should have came right back and said, "Okay, so JB, you now know what I plan to do if my team loses. You know what I'm willing to do. Now, what are you willing to do?" And I don't care if it would have been a scenario where next week you would have had JB kissing Josh Matthews bare naked behind in the middle of the ring, but there should have been some type of stipulation out there for if JB were to lose. There should have been something out there. And the fact that they did not even acknowledge that, it was pretty much a dead giveaway how things were going to play out. But it was still overall this week, I would have to say, a decent episode to actually go in and check out. Some other action that we had got on tonight's episode, there was a backstage segment with Andrew Everett. He was seen talking with Mackenzie. She wanted to know what was next for him now that he has gone through the latest trials that Shane Helms had put him through from last week. Everett, confident, feeling as though, hey, at this point, I surely have a shot at that X Division title. Surely I'm next. Well, we saw Shane Helms, Trevor Lee, they showed up. Shane Helms, he's like, hey, you did good last week, but now we're going to up the ante even more. Let's see you in a fatal four-way. And some of those participants that Everett was going to be facing was Marsha, Rocket, Suicide, and Shane Helms was actually in there. Shane Helms actually had kind of got punked into going into that matchup as Andrew Everett actually challenged Shane Helms to put himself in the fatal four-way. Initially, Shane wasn't going to do it. Shane was like, dude, you ain't ready for this. You can't handle this, dude. Come on. Get out of here. Get out of here. But Everett was like, what? Are you scared? Come on, man. So he actually conned Helms into putting himself in this matchup for this X Division Fatal 4-Way matchup. That actually was a pretty solid matchup. Andrew Everett picking up the W, doing another pretty shooting star press. I'd say he's got one of the nicest shooting star presses. I tell you, when he times it just right, it can be really pretty. But I gotta say, when I watched his shooting star press tonight, it was a little rough to look at because it seemed kind of, believe it or not, it actually seemed kind of jagged a little bit the way that he had executed it. It made me kind of worry whether or not it was actually officially going to be a shooting star press because I just kind of worried a little bit, just the way he was doing it. I'm like, okay, did he really put enough torque in there? Did he really put enough elevation to rotate his body midair, because it really didn't seem like it. But no, he pulled it up. He pulled it off. He actually had did the shooting star press. I want to say he did it on Marsha Rocket. Post match, Everett getting into the face of Shane Helms, thinking surely that's it. This is now going to be his opportunity. This is it. And we actually had saw Everett attack. Correction, Trevor Lee attack Everett from behind, did a chop to the legs from behind, and we had saw a 2-on-1 beat down, but Everett actually ended up coming back on the rebound, took out Trevor Lee, was about to get his hands on Shane Helms, but Shane had quickly left the ring. So pretty much things had ended right where they were right there. Now, I would think at this point, going into next week's episode, like that's it. I would think at this point, the very next time we see Everett, he's going to be done playing this whole silly game of win this one match. Okay, now win this triple threat. Okay, now win this fatal four way. I would think now that's like pretty much it. That now Everett is going to get his chance to face Trevor Lee for the X Division title. I'm almost kind of led to the impression that maybe some type of an authority figure is maybe going to come out and address what's been happening the past couple of weeks and pretty much say, hey, look, Everett, Shane Helms, Trevor Lee, the guy has earned it. The trials you've put him in the past couple of weeks, he's earned it. He's going to finally get his shot. It's going down. So I don't think those of you that are asking me straight up, when's the match probably going to be going down? I don't think the match is going to be happening next week. Maybe it'll happen 2, maybe possibly 3 weeks from now, but I'm banking more on 2 weeks from now that it's probably going to be going down. Bruce Pritchard came down to the middle of the ring, and he pretty much had revealed some results as there were fans in attendance that had voiced who they wanted to see face Bobby Lashley for the Impact Wrestling Championship. There was also a poll that was put up on social media and also on Impact Wrestling's website asking who fans wanted to see face Bobby Lashley for the Impact title. And the person that had won that was the Cowboy, James Storm. Again, the Cowboy, James Storm, is now going to be facing Bobby Lashley for the Impact title. When that is going to be going down, I'm under the impression, if not next week, maybe in 2 weeks. I would think probably next week, because one thing that was talked about many times throughout the night, Impact Wrestling is going to be live next week. I would imagine there's probably going to be a little bit of a tape delay, but live is live. We actually saw EC3. He came out, had some strong words to say to Bruce Pritchard. He felt as though he got screwed out of another opportunity, and he couldn't help but really question the new regime that has come into place since the takeover, since the new ownership of Impact. He really feels as though he's being shafted. Bruce Pritchard told him straight up, go to the back, look yourself in the mirror, take a good hard look at yourself, and then ask yourself, what happened to the EC3 that you used to be? What happened to that man? And he also implored EC3 to look back on that one match that he recently lost to Alberto El Patron and ask himself, hey, did you tap out because of the match that you were in, or did you tap out on yourself? So that kind of got like a nice ooh hush from the crowd. EC3 looking at Bruce Pritchard saying, hey, thank you for this. I'm actually going to take your advice and I'm going to reflect. I'm going to do what I need to do. So stirring the pot a little bit. I'm kind of under the impression, and this is something that I've been saying off and on for the past couple of weeks now, which is EC3. What happened to that arrogant, cocky prick that we came to know and love, that was on such a momentum pretty much when he first came to Impact Wrestling? I missed that EC3, quite honestly. So with the segment that he did with Bruce Pritchard, which, by the way, had some really great chemistry which I'd love to see happen again in the weeks to come if it can possibly go there. I'm almost kind of under the impression. Look, does EC3 need a manager? No, he definitely does not need a manager. Although there's that selfish part of me that would love to see Bruce Pritchard get back into managing certain talents again. But I know he is mainly like now a executive on-screen character or whatever. But I love the fact that the pot was stirred a little bit in trying to see what's going to happen going forward with EC3. Just kind of looking ahead into the crystal ball a little bit, I really wouldn't be too surprised if vintage EC3 came back, and he came back in such a way where when that title match does go down between Lashley and the Cowboy James Storm, if maybe EC3 becomes like so selfish and just so like, hey, that's my spot, I should have gotten that opportunity, I wouldn't be surprised if EC3 interfered in that matchup, maybe laid out both guys, or maybe took out all of his frustrations on the Cowboy James Storm. I mean, now that we got James Storm kind of going the face route again, kind of makes all the sense in the world, especially considering there were a couple of weeks on Impact where EC3, James Storm, they did collide a little bit, trying to jockey for who is going to be eventually the top dog again in Impact Wrestling. So that makes a lot of sense to me. But I definitely feel I'm on to something with regards to EC3 going back to vintage EC3 for the simple fact the subtle shots that he took at the fans, saying, you know, these people, you're telling me these people have voted. Just the nice little subtle shots. It kind of gives you the impression that he is kind of teasing it, that Impact is teasing it, that he is going to kind of go back down that path. And honestly, if it happens, I'm all fine for it. Let's see that go down. So nice segment that we got from that. Also, there was KM and Sienna. They had lost to Ali and Braxton Sutter. Post match is really where it was interesting, though, as we had saw a newcomer. Remember, I told you guys maybe Awesome Kong was going to be popping up again. I said that like last week, if I'm not mistaken. Well, I got the Kong part right, but it definitely was not awesome. The person that we actually had saw make their debut, it was an individual by the name of Congo Kong. And for a lot of you guys that are like, who the hell, who the hell is that? He is 37 going on 38. He's been on the independent circuit since the early 2000s. And, you know, he's been floating around here and there as far as like what promotions he's worked for. He's done some stuff for Border City Wrestling, Extreme Wrestling Federation, the Insane Pro Wrestling, Juggalo Championship Wrestling, Price of Glory Wrestling. Really, he kind of came into the forefront as far as getting this opportunity to be on Impact. He really kind of got that after being put under the radar courtesy of Jeff Jarrett's Global Force Wrestling promotion when he was doing a couple of events back in 2015. That's really how he came under Jeff Jarrett's radar. And I guess Jarrett was like so impressed with this man's work that he decided, hey, I needed like next opportunity I get down the road, I can use this guy on a regular basis. And that's exactly what's happening, as we saw Congo Kong make quick work out of Braxton Sutter. So this Congo Kong is apparently part of the stable that is currently consisting of KM, Sienna, Laurel Van Ness, who came down once again with her shoe, and she beat the holy crap out of Ali, as it was Sienna and Laurel basically double teaming on this girl. So you pretty much got a stable beating the crap out of two people right now. Honestly, again, I like this new element that they kind of put in there, but you know, I still am not like, what's gonna happen next? What's going to happen with Braxton Sutter and Ali now? How are you going to be able to overcome these odds? I still don't care about this particular story arc. I appreciate new cast of supporting characters being thrown into the mix to try to freshen it up and make it interesting, but I still particularly don't care for this angle. I'm actually looking for the exit for this angle. So to each its own, but that's where I still am standing with that. Next up, probably one of my favorite matches of the night. We had saw Rosemary in a non-title matchup. She had took on a returning Santana Garrett. Oh my God, do I love me some Santana Garrett? She is just stunningly beautiful. One of the first times I saw her is actually down at the Shine Wrestling promotion. And I was like, wow, who is this beautiful girl? And I just was like, instantly, I just had a crush. And I'm like, wow. And the fact that the girl could wrestle her ass off, this girl is definitely one of the most hardest working women out there on the free agency market, and it just always baffles me as the years have progressed. It's always baffled me that WWE has not, like, I don't know, I'm not going to like speculate because part of me wants to say, like, how can WWE not have this girl under their radar? And like, maybe they have, but it's just been a matter of like, not just yet. Or I don't know what's going on, but I've always looked at her these past couple of years and I've been like, this girl needs to be in the WWE, especially everything that's going on right now with this whole women's revolution. Hell, honestly, what's going down in NXT? I mean, she is still a young girl. Like I said, 28. You can do a lot with a woman that's 28 years of age. She's not going to be 29 until this May. And the fact that see, this is the main thing I want you all to home in on, too. I mean, she mainly does a big bulk of stuff for like many wrestling promotions, but Shine is definitely the main one. But she resides out in Orlando, Florida. So when you think about the fact you got NXT, they're mainly doing a lot of shows down there in Florida. Sometimes it's kind of head scratching that, like, you would think one plus one. I don't get that sometimes. I tell you, I really don't get that. But hey, man, what is somebody else's potential loss is somebody else's gain. Now, look, my girl Santana Garrett, she's had a couple of stunts or stints in Impact Wrestling. I remember the last run that she had, it was as this character called Brittany. And I thought that was the most dumbest things that they possibly could have done in bringing back Santana that go round, because it's like, no, this young woman is already established. This young woman already has a respected following. If you should be doing anything, you should just continue to build off of that and let her keep her name, let her keep everything that's in place and go from that angle. And just the way they executed her that last tenure with the company, it was the drizzles. Especially, remember one of the last story arcs that they had her involved in? Correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the last arcs that they had her involved in, I want to say it had something to do with my man. See, it was Gunner, and who was the guy that Gunner was befriending? He was in the nut house. He kind of had this whole psychotic gimmick that was going on. His name is on the tip of my tongue. I'm really not picturing it right now. And it sucks because I should like know the hell out of that damn name. And I'm actually looking at my notes right now to try to see if I can jog my memory. I'm still not seeing the name. Yeah, Samuel Shaw. That's who it was. Samuel Shaw. Yeah, Samuel Shaw. So you know, you see that, you're like, okay, this is kind of, you know, what the hell. And that angle, by the way, between Gunner, Samuel Shaw, Brittany, that had a lot of life. I did not like the fact that it did not reach its proper conclusion. When I think about past TNA story arcs that we saw over the years that kind of left you scratching your head and you're kind of like, okay, where exactly is this going to go? That was actually a story arc that had a lot of potential. I enjoyed the storytelling, and it seemed like Impact kind of knew where they wanted to go with it. But then all of a sudden, one day, like, she's gone, and then like, I think Gunner was gone, or one of those guys was gone shortly after that, and you're kind of like, wow, well, that just kind of like went up in the air. It's almost kind of like, it's almost kind of like if you watched Married with Children, it's almost kind of like, remember when there was a new character that was introduced? There was the new kid, and we didn't like him. You know what I'm talking? There's like a short blonde haired kid that was part of the Married with Children cast. I mean, he didn't officially get a credit or whatever, but once the writers kind of realized it was like a bad idea to like introduce him or whatever, they just pretty much like try to figure out a way to acknowledge that the kid didn't exist. So at one point, like the running gag was the kid was always in his room or whatever, and then just one day, like I want to say maybe it was like a dream, like it never happened. That kid never existed or whatever. So I just find it kind of interesting how they had approached that story arc. And then you think about the previous stint that she had, it had involved the Pope. That's why if you were watching tonight's episode of Impact, Pope was just all, I tell you, daddy, yo, daddy, a little bit of reminiscence from a previous angle. So I kind of like how they did that. Has anybody else been picking that up, by the way? It seems like the past couple of weeks, we have seen, I won't say main characters, but the past couple of weeks, we have seen characters that played a significant part in the career of the Pope, and I like that somewhat nod of continuity as far as like what was yesteryear. I actually like that. I had got a nice little chuckle out of that, but I'm happy that she's now going to be seen on TV once again. And I like the fact that she was introduced to us as Santana. I just hope that going forward, we're going to be seeing what we had saw tonight with her match against Rosemary. Because can I be candid with you all? Since I have been watching Impact Wrestling, let me tell you, and I really want to show Rosemary a lot of love. Honestly, from the moment that she first came to the scene and she was part of the whole Decay stable, just very eye alluring. I mean, as far as that whole cast of characters go, you just gravitate towards her off the break, and you're like, man, who's that? Wow, she's got a unique kind of cool ass look. This is something that I don't really typically see from some of the wrestling promotions that I check out. She's very interesting, and the fact that Homegirl knows how to wrestle, I mean, I just find her, and I don't know if you all have like seen how she looks without the makeup, but she actually looks really freaking hot. I personally think without all the makeup. I mean, she definitely has like a grunge type of punk rock thing going on when you just take away all the makeup. I mean, she looks like she's into some hardcore stuff. All right. As far as music scene and all that, I ain't saying drugs and all of that. Hey, if she does weed, ain't nothing wrong with that. I could care less about that, honestly. But yeah, she's got a nice allure to her. And I tell you, since she's been doing her thing in Impact Wrestling, all the matches that she's had, she's always come out very impressive, always a good, strong showing. And I'm glad that she's having this great run as a champion right now. But can I be candid with you all? Sorry about that little bump, by the way. Can I be candid with you all? As far as the opponents that she has been facing, it's just been weak. It honestly has been weak. And for me to say that, that's just, I don't like saying that. But when I look at all of the girls that Rosemary has faced, some of the women, you can make the argument, well, wait a minute, Lee, how can you say when she had faced this person? And if you really stop and think about it, a good example would be Mia Yim, or AKA Jade. Anybody that has been watching the career of Mia Yim before she became Jade in TNA, that girl knows how to freaking wrestle, but like it was so freaking watered down when she came into Impact. So that's one perfect example. Or if you look at a girl like Marty Bell, that's another one that got very watered down coming into Impact Wrestling. So many women that like you and I have known about, followed their careers for like many years. We finally see them have this opportunity, whether it's ROH or Impact or whatever, and we finally see them and we get this watered down version. It's one thing if, okay, well, this is a different gimmick. Okay, we get it. But the execution in the ring, that should not differ. It should always, what you brought with you that got you to the dance, you should still be having that with you as you're doing this new endeavor. And call it management or whatever, but I just didn't like that philosophy that was happening in Impact. So to see the Santana show up in this match against Rosemary, that we had got of the Santana that's out there currently on the free agency market, I love it. I hope that's a taste of things to come just going forward for the women's division as a whole, man. Loving it. So other than that, some other stuff that had went down on tonight's Impact. I think we pretty much had got all the matches out the way. Honestly, I think at this point there's only one more match left. I'm actually looking at my notes here. Oh yeah, Davey Richards. He did take on DJZ. That was like really freaking quick. That match had ended in submission, but post match we had saw Eddie Edwards. He was just like a bat out of hell trying to come on down there to the ring. We had Impact staff, security. They tried to stop him, and didn't work. Or did it? Did they brawl? I want to say maybe there was somewhat of a slight brawl that Eddie almost got there, but I don't know. They're definitely, I don't think they locked up. I think security did their part in separating both men. But once again, we had saw Alicia and we had saw Angelina Love. They went at it once again, just repeating what they had did from the previous week. I would like to think that maybe next week some type of a challenge is going to be put out there, some type of a I'm tired of you. Let's be done with this already. Let's put an end to this. I would think maybe there's going to be some type of a challenge that's put out there and some type of a stipulation. I don't know if we're going to see that match next week. I don't think we are. If anything, it's probably just going to be laying down the foundation and setting it up for that next week or the week after. That's probably what's going to be coming about, though. But you had Team GOAT, which consisted of Lashley, Bram, Eli Drake, Tyrus. They had lost to Team JB. Team JB's team was Chris Adonis, Matt Morgan, Alberto El Patron, and Magnus. Team Jeremy Borash winning. Love that. Love that great main event matchup. It was great seeing a lot of those faces back in Impact again. Once again, and maybe this can be addressed on next week's episode. One of the main things that I had addressed on last week's Impact Showdown was what exactly is the incentive for the winning team. Okay, they get that announcer who they like, who they respect, they get them the W, but what exactly do they gain from saying, okay, we'll go ahead, we'll represent you? Like, how are their best interests being represented? So I would like to think that somehow that's going to be tackled on next week's live episode, because honestly, I'm looking at Team JB. I'm looking at your Chris Adonis. I'm looking at your Matt Morgan. I'm looking at your Alberto El Patron. I'm looking at your Magnus. I'm looking at all of these guys. And again, there's got to be some type of incentive. And I'm not sure if maybe one of the incentives that you do is, maybe JB reveals that he was able to pull some strings for just like this one time only. And that basically there's going to be he talked to management and, they decided that since, that team had won and everything, one of the incentives that they get is there's going to be a future contenders match or whatever. Maybe they can do that and they can have whatever shot at whatever title they decide they want to go for. I don't know if maybe you kind of operate from that standpoint. I mean, that kind of makes a little bit of sense if maybe you want to kind of go in that direction, but somehow you got to venture off of this. You got to venture off this winning team and justify why they decided to come together, not just because they wanted to represent their favorite announcer. That just sounds really kind of very cliche. Some of you all may differ on that one, but I still feel in my heart of hearts that's the direction that you need to go. So we'll see exactly what comes about with that one. Or better yet, another thing that you can honestly do, maybe you can have JB reveal to the guys, hey, look, we got the Grand Slam championship. There's a X Division championship. There's the World Heavyweight Championship. Well, I was able to pull some strings, and you guys got to figure it out amongst you all self. But here's the title shot opportunities. You all can now figure out which one of y'all wants to have whatever title shot. I don't know if maybe you kind of go in that direction, but just a couple of angles that you can go. It kind of give you a little bit something to marinate on. Hey, I don't check out the spoilers unlike some people. So if a lot of what I'm saying makes a lot of sense to you and it actually plays out that way in the coming weeks, just remember, spoiler free over here. We definitely always try to keep it spoiler free for you guys. So other than that, gotta say, Impact Wrestling for this week, solid. I thoroughly had enjoyed it. No complaints whatsoever, except for that one area I mentioned at the very beginning of the show with regards to pretty much Jeremy Borash letting you know he's going to lose. Now, whether or not Jeremy Borash is finally rid of Josh Matthews, that remains to be seen. Whether or not Josh reneges on his word, because when it's all said and done, Josh Matthews signed no contract. So, is Josh going to honor that? Is he going to be a man of his word? Or is Josh going to come back from the standpoint of maybe Josh is going to start being the mouthpiece for certain characters? Give you a little bit of something to marinate on. And if he is going to be a future mouthpiece for somebody, who's he going to be a mouthpiece for? That's another thing that you all kind of have to marinate on. I mean, honestly, just looking at the current roster as it stands right now, I honestly, there's a couple of different directions. If Josh Matthews is maybe going to, storyline wise, go the route of a manager, or if maybe he wants to be supportive of his girl, Madison Rain, I could see easily those two aligning themselves with KM and Sienna. That would be a very unique stable in itself right now. I definitely kind of feel like if you want me to even remotely give a damn about that whole Braxton Sutter alley angle, I think maybe if you have a Josh Matthews incorporated in that, he could probably carry a little bit of the workload from an entertainment standpoint. So you could easily slide him in there if that's a direction that you want to go. It helps freshen up that program. Definitely does what it needs to do in trying to help put over Braxton Sutter more. So that's one potential angle you could maybe go in. I'm looking at another potential route that you could maybe go with. Just looking at the current roster here. I don't see that happening. I had got a honorable mention in my brain just now. I was thinking, what about Josh Matthews potentially being the mouthpiece for EC3? Nah, right? Rough draft. I mean, that needs a little bit of work, but I don't really think you can go in that direction either. Looking at the rest, I'm not really seeing anybody else. Well, that would be interesting. Lashley's promos are improving, but they could be a lot better. You could maybe have Josh team up with Lashley as a mouthpiece. That would be pretty damn interesting. I must say, talk about a new layer to the Lashley character. That would definitely be interesting. Definitely be interesting. I kind of like that. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. I'm aware of some of this breaking news that had came down in the past couple of weeks with regards to YouTube, and apparently there's like this major shakeup that's going to be coming that's going to affect a lot of people that love to talk about all things wrestling. I am aware of that. I will definitely talk very candidly about this on next week's RCWR show. So, for those of you that may be a little bit curious what I have to say, make sure you tune in for that. That's going to be coming at you guys on Tuesday night, April 18th, 10 p.m. Eastern, right after WWE SmackDown goes off the air. I'll be live on Spreaker.com. If you can't check it out live, it'll be available for on demand and download purposes for y'all to enjoy. All the links you need is in the episode description, whether you're checking this out on YouTube or you're checking it out on the downloads on demand. All the links you need will be in the episode description for you guys. But continue to talk. I want to hear what you all had thought about this week's Impact Wrestling. So post your comments. Get at me. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook at the RCWR Show. Make sure you leave those thumbs up. Please feel free to share, retweet, favorite. One of the many ways you can spread a good word about the content. And do subscribe, as I'd love to have you all subscribe so you never miss out on all the great content I do for you here on a weekly basis. I appreciate all of you that took the time out to interact with me live and post your comments, give thoughts. And I appreciate you all that's going to be leaving your reactions to this on demand right about now as you're going to be watching this. So thanks a ton. And stay connected with me on those social media platforms. If I don't hear from you all, have a great weekend. I will definitely catch you all next go round. Everybody, do take care.